Good morning and welcome to Morning Brew on Politics Social. I'm Graham Hughes. It is Wednesday, the 21st of August 2024. I hope you're doing all right. Just big shout out to everyone in the chat there. We've got Vendetta, we've got Dave W, Billy Kershaw, we've got Michael, we've got Captain Bart Roberts in there, we've got Maureen, we've got Simon. I think I've already said Simon. I'll say it again. Oh, no, I didn't. Simon, we've got Fraser, we've got Paul. If you'd like to join our chat on the side of the screen here, please, all you need to do is just subscribe to the channel. Just subscribe to the channel and wait for 30 seconds or a minute, and then you'll be able to write stuff on here. But please be respectful and don't be rude and don't be mean. Jane Lockwood says, morning, Graham. Morning, Jane. How you doing? News update, 14 rioters now in my hotel. That's Gareth T, who works in the prison. Nice work there, Gareth. Nice work. Colin Baker's saying morning. Obviously my favourite doctor in there as well. We've got Jane Lockwood and C Dizzy. Hello, C Dizzy. I think you're a new viewer, or at least a new commenter. We've got Vortex Lisa in there as well. And Roger Haslock. Morning, high of 37 degrees today. Must take my umbrella. Not in Liverpool, I don't think. I'm wearing my hoodie. Anyway, so today we're going to talk a bit about Brexit. Sorry, I know we've banged the drum about this for a very long time, but I just want to use this as a bit of a pressure valve. You know, just release some pressure of the absolute infuriation that I feel because of this stupid vote that was foisted on us by the aristocracy and the neo-aristocracy of this country in order to abide by rules and do things and take away our freedoms and damage our personal finances in a way that in no way, shape or form damaged the finances of the people who told us to do it. We saw this last week when it came out how much Nigel Farage earns in a year. It's more than me. I think it's probably more than you as well. So, you know, he's doing all right. You got Tommy 10 Names travelling on an Irish passport, so he's all right, isn't he? He could go anywhere he likes in Europe. Stay there for as long as he likes. Stay at his 5-star luxury retreat in Cyprus or in France or in Spain or wherever he wants in the EU, because he has an Irish passport. If you don't have an Irish passport, you can't do that. And from October or November this year, they are bringing in the ETIAS system. The ETIAS system is modelled on the American ESTA system. Now, I don't know if any of you have gone through the pain and misery of having to try and get into America since March 2012, but from that date onward, you needed to fill out an electronic form. Now, in the olden days, when you flew into America, you were given a slip of paper. You would sign it with your name and also your passport number, and you would have these little tick boxes, these cute little tick boxes to tick, saying you're not coming to America to do any terrorism. You're not coming to America to indulge in any immoral acts, all that kind of stuff. Tick, 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 tick. Not doing any of those. Not carrying any weapons. Why would you take weapons into America? They've got enough. And that was it. You handed that in. I don't even think anyone looked at it, except if you did something immoral, or maybe you did a bit of terrorism, and then you would be taken to one side, and they'll say, "Listen, not only are we going to find you guilty of being a master terrorist, you signed this piece of paper saying that you weren't going to do terrorism. You lied to us." Meh. So, yeah, it seemed a bit weird. Like, why would you say yes? Yes, that's exactly what I'm coming to this country to do. That's my intention. Bit of terrorism. I assume some terrorists might have got caught out by that. I don't know. It all seems a bit odd. But the fact remains that they changed the system in March 2012. Just as I was coming into the American overseas territory of Guam. And I had to get one of these electronic visas. I had to stand on the top deck of the ship, holding my mobile phone in the air, or holding my laptop in the air, or whatever I was using, to try and get some kind of signal. And I was on a cargo ship, and I had to fill out this stupid form to say that I could come into the country of Guam. Well, the island of Guam, which isn't even part of America properly. It's not like it's a state or nothing. It's an overseas territory. And since then, every couple of years, I had to fill out a new ESTA to say, I wasn't a wrong one. However, the list of questions that the ESTA asked you when you first arrived, when I first started going to America back in 1999, my first trip to America was in 1993, I think. You just filled it out on the plane, you just filled it out. That was fine. And there was only a few questions, maybe 10 questions. Now, you've got to go online, and it is a process. Do you know how you know it's a process? Because they'll give you one of those login numbers and a password for your application, because it takes that long. Not only do they want to know where you work, who your boss is, they want to know where you live. They also want to know your all of your social media accounts, so don't leave any off. So put your MySpace one on there, I guess, if you still got it. You've got to list all these things. You've also got to list all the countries you've been to in the previous 5 or 7 years, right? You've got to list all the countries, and it's not like an easy thing where you can just type them in. It's like a drop-down box that you got to select each time. Also, when you've got to scan your passport, and then it fills your passport details in, and then you've got to find United Kingdom on the list of 200 countries on the list, right down at the bottom next to the UAE. So the whole process takes a long time. They want to know where you're staying in the United States. And this is one of the most frustrating things, because they might say no. They've done that to me before. They've said no. So you've said, well, why are you coming to America? And you're like, because I'm transiting on an airplane. Or, have you got your ticket? What's the flight number? Okay, no, I'm going to be staying there. Okay, well, where's your hotel? Do you have a contact in America who can be your contact person if you do something wrong, I guess? So they get shouted at. Why'd you let this person into the country? And you'd be like, I don't know. And you've got to I don't know, write to a friend in America, hi Jared, and say, can I please have your name and address and phone number to put in this form? Like, this whole thing takes a day. And I'm used to filling out forms to going into countries. I've been to every country in the world. I might have mentioned it. And this is onerous. I find this onerous. It's now $21 to apply, and you don't get that back if you fail. Oh, you get some of it back. I think you get $15 of it back now, which is a new rule that they seem to have brought in. Unfortunately for me, because I fell foul of the ever-changing ESTA rules back in 2016 and had been to Sudan in the previous 5 years, I was rejected for an ESTA. And I didn't realise at the time, but that meant that you couldn't go in overland either, because you didn't need an ESTA to go in overland from Mexico or from Canada. So I tried to go in from Canada in December 2016, and I was interrogated for 6 hours. 3 hours, sorry. Don't exaggerate, going 3 hours of interrogation, and my eyeballs being scanned and my fingerprints being taken. And then eventually they made the decision to not only not let me into America, so I'm now officially refused entry to America for the rest of my life, they also said that I wasn't allowed to have an ESTA for the rest of my life. I'd have to get a visa. And this counts for flying in and out of the country. Like, I can't change flight if I go to Central America, if I go to Panama, there's no direct flights from the UK to Panama or Costa Rica, right? So I have to change flights somewhere. I can change flights in Europe, but that's a bit more expensive. It would be cheaper for me to fly to America and change flights in America and then go down to Panama City. I can't do that anymore without a visa. And the visa, oh my god. So it's I don't know how much it is. It was £150 last time I checked, but I was just looking up on the when you apply for a visa, you've got to go for an interview down in London. Now, for us Northerners, getting to London is very, very expensive, prohibitively expensive actually. Probably about 150 quid now, at least on the train. Probably 170 quid, something like that if you're coming down from Durham. And then you've got this 150 quid that you got to spend on your visa application, which you don't get back if they say no. And you have to go to the embassy and have an interview. The interview can take up to 3 hours. Well, the process can take up to 3 hours. You've got to be interviewed. They've got to sit you down and go, why do you want to come to America? Hey, what's wrong with you? Hey, why do you want to come to Disneyland, you bastard? Why do you want to see the Statue of Liberty, you gobshite? And you're like, oh, God, this is a bit aggressive. Why? You don't want me to come to your country. You keep on putting adverts on the telly saying visit USA, but you don't actually want me to visit the USA. Okay, whatever. Anyway, the reason why I'm telling you all this is because we've got all this to come in our own continent because of the dickheads who voted for Brexit. and the dickheads who told them to vote for Brexit, who aren't affected by this. So when the electronic travel authorization system comes in, we're going to have to pay €7. Although, you'll be pleased to know that your elderly relatives who all voted for Brexit are exempt from that charge. It's fine. It's fine. I'll just pay it. I'll just pay for your stupidity for the rest of my life. Anyway, so you've got to pay your €7. You've got to fill out a form online. And I will tell you now that the form will start off, fairly sensible. Where do you live? What's your name? What's your passport number? Yeah? Within 10 years, it'll be like America. They'll want your inside leg measurement, your dad's maiden name, your eye colour, your everything. Write it all down. Right? You need a letter of invitation. Come. You need to have someone who is going to sponsor you to travel in that country. You need to come as part of a tour group, like in Iran. And that will happen as a response to threats. So as more people are coming into Europe from destabilized countries, destabilized by Russia, Europe, the EU, will tighten up its restrictions on who can come into Europe. And we will be part of those tightened up restrictions because, we're not part of the EU anymore. And we're not part of Schengen. Not part of any of those things. We left. We left all those things. We left them all. And so, as a result of our wanton stupidity, we're now at the back of the queue. And these queues, get this, according to a report in The Independent, could last for up to 14 hours. Thanks, Brexit. I really resent the fact that people who are measurably stupider than me got to, I'm pretty stupid, but, measurably stupider than me. IQ in double digits, probably single digits, some of them. And they got to make this decision. They were told to vote to make our lives more difficult, to make it so we couldn't live and work in Europe anymore. We couldn't get free roaming on our phones. And now they're going to change it so that we can't even just travel freely around our own continent for 90 days. Not even for 90 days without asking permission. And to all those rioters and reform voters, a part of the Farage riots, who are now being convicted, kiss goodbye to your holidays in the sun, mate, because you're not going anywhere. Because one of the things they ask, do you have a criminal record? Oh, dearie me. It seems if you have a criminal record, it makes it very difficult to get to America under their ESTA system. ESTA system. Don't forget, Canada's got a similar system. Australia's got a similar system. And, it makes life a little bit of a misery compared with how it used to be when we were allowed to roam the world a lot more freely than we are today. But, we don't want people moving. We want them staying in their village and marrying their sister. Because that's the future that the Brexiteers want. Anyway, right, I'm going to jump into the chat now. But Labour says, or Labia says, Duke Vengeance, Nick says the new rules are the result of leaving the EEA SM rather than the EU. Hard Brexit outside the EEA SM has never been a public mandate. The 2019 general election was for anyone with Corbyn, not get Brexit done. Yeah, but unfortunately, the Tories were voted in on their manifesto for a hard Brexit. And I know it was an anti-Corbyn vote, and I will blame that man till the day that I die for Brexit happening. I believe that if it had been anyone else running Labour at that time, head of Labour, head of the opposition, they would have actually opposed the government. But he didn't. Wouldn't join us on any of our marches, wouldn't join us on any of our any of our rallies or speeches or anything about battling the Tory flagship policy. He was nowhere to be seen. So don't get me started about the previous but one leader of the opposition. Spain just delayed its ESTA thing till November. Now, yeah, it's been delayed till November, but the countries aren't going to be ready. They're not going to be ready for this. And Labour are currently trying very hard to get the rules relaxed for us Brits, but the EU sort of saying, well, that's got to be even more of a headache for us to relax the rules for one country. And you did actually vote for this twice. To be honest, not being part of Schengen is a good thing, says Gareth. I don't think so. I'd love to be part of Schengen. I want a hard rejoin when we rejoin. I want Schengen. I want the Euro. I want everyone speaking German. Just to make the Brexiteers cry. And I will drink their salty tears. Paul Martin, UK nationals and their family members who are beneficiaries of the withdrawal agreement are exempt from ETIAS. They may reside on the territory of their EU host country and travel to other EU. Well, that's good if you'd already got away. But also, you know, when you say that they're exempt from ETIAS, I mean, let's face it, if you are rich, you get a minion to do this for you. You don't have to do it yourself. And like €7 is nothing. But then €7 for, a family. I know that the kids are exempt, but from the charge. But it's adding more cost onto already incredibly expensive holidays because you have to take them in term time. In the holidays now, you can't take them in term time because of new rules that came in that, again, don't affect the rich because you go to a private school. You can take your kids out whenever you want. It's a private school. They don't get inspected by Ofsted if they don't want to be. It's a private school. They don't pay tax. It's a private school. Yeah, private schools don't have to do shit. They don't have to follow the national curriculum. They can just teach the kids what to write in the exams the whole time. They don't have to follow the curriculum. They just say, okay, this is what you're going to be asked in the exam. This is what you got to write. Go, enjoy all those A stars, kids. Is it illegal to blow raspberries at Michael Grove? No. Simon says, I'll be up for joining Schengen. So easy travelling between different Schengen countries. I know, it's fantastic. It's absolutely fantastic. And humans travel. I don't know if you saw Zoe Gardner or heard Zoe Gardner on the radio this morning talking to that idiot Tom Swarbrick, and she was talking about migration, just humans migrate, and why are we deporting thousands of people who are working when we need people to work? I mean, it just seems counterintuitive. Puddinator said, I cut my old man out partly for him voting for Leave in 2016. Wonder if he knew he was voting his kids out of his life since they knew what they were voting for. Well, Puddinator, that's happened to a lot of people. That's happened to a lot of people. I mean, I find it very, very difficult to be in a room now with people I know who voted for Brexit because of what it's done to my life personally. And, you know, you might think it's petty, but I was doing quite well making videos for other people, not for myself, traveling around Europe, and then that revenue source that I had built over many years of presenting videos, making videos, traveling to every country in the world without flying, working for National Geographic, the BBC, Lonely Planet, etc., threw it all in the bin. It was all thrown in the bin because no one wanted to pay someone from Britain to go and present these shows or present these, things for corporate videos, things like that, or come and give a talk when they would have to pay for a work visa in order for that person to come here and come to Europe, come to the EU and do that. They can get someone who's Irish or someone who's got an Irish passport, like, I don't know, Tommy Ten Names, who's got an Irish passport. Big Patriot, he's got an Irish passport. My family was already shattered, then Brexit came along and threw what was left in the grinder. Yeah, Duke, do you know what? It's a really good point there that the Brexit referendum was so divisive and so cruel and so mean-spirited. Like, the whole thing was a disgrace, and it was orchestrated by people like Nigel Farage and Richard Tice, who are now MPs. Like, people still think they're all right, and we need to get this message through to people. They're not all right. They've put you in this situation. But here's what's going to happen: the usual suspects when things kick off, next summer. So next summer's going to be absolute carnage. But the usual suspects are going to come out, and they are going to be blaming the EU for implementing the laws that we asked them to implement. We asked them to be a third world country, and we've seen this so many times before, and there's no reason why it's going to change anytime soon. The pound is Scottish, but as part Scot, I have no particular affinity with it. I was happy to see the euro replace it. I mean, look, I used to be a lot more for British exceptionalism. I thought it was great that we got a rebate, which we didn't really deserve, but we got it. So, it's like getting a bargain for something that you could probably afford. You're like, okay, well, if it's got to be cheap, if it's in a sale, whatever, I'll have it. I like the fact that we had all the opt-outs that we had selfishly because it was better for us, But now, I don't care. I'll just happily rejoin the EU under any any of the rules that they set for us to join the EU. Because I feel like we have to. I feel like to move forward as a country, we can't do it without being part of the single most successful and lucrative trading unions the world has ever seen. It blows my mind, the fact that so many people... That doesn't blow my mind. I think there's a better way of putting that. It pisses me off that so many people who have never been anywhere, they've been to Torremolinos on holiday, that's about it, right? Said to me, and I know like a little bit of ego in this, but they said to me, it's fine, Graham, we'll just trade with the rest of the world. And I'll be like, where are we going to trade? There's 8 advanced nations outside of Europe. 8 in the world. 8 advanced nations. That's it. The other 150, yeah, not advanced. Yeah, developing. Yeah, that's what they are, the developing nations. Some of them aren't even developing. And we're going to sell them stuff, are we? Because it's the whole point of having a trade deal. You don't have a trade deal because you want to buy things. You have a trade deal because you want to sell things. These people, you are making stuff that you think these people are going to want to buy. And we turned our back on 500 million relatively affluent customers in our own continent. Economic gravity, boys and girls. We turned our back on them. And we turned instead to the billion people in Africa, many of whom can't afford our shit. They can't afford the things we make. We turned our attention to the people living in India who can't afford the 1.3 billion people living in India. Many of whom cannot afford what we're selling. And this is the thing. There was nothing about being part of Europe that stopped us from trading with these other countries. It's not like, oh wow, we're going to get out of Europe and then we're going to be able to find out finally what Coca-Cola tastes like. We'll be able to get ourselves a Starbucks coffee from a country that's not in the EU. No, it was fine. You can still trade with these places, but you didn't necessarily have a trade deal with them because a lot of them, it just wasn't worth having a trade deal with them. It would cost more to set up a trade deal than we'll actually make out of a trade deal. Like, let that blow your mind. So let's say it costs £1 million to set up a trade deal with a particular, West African country. Let's say Ghana. And then how much are we making out of selling stuff to Ghana? Oh, we make about £1 million a year. Okay. How much did we make before Brexit? Oh, about £1 million a year. Great. Wow. Johnny Cophead, thank you very much for the £5 super chat, mate. That is very kind of you. That is the first super chat of the morning. I'm grey-bearded, curmudgeon-y old git, and I've had enough of Tory and refuck goons being allowed to spout their lies in the mainstream media. Well, the mainstream... It's not about them being allowed to. They are encouraged to. Because the mainstream media in this country is owned by a handful of gruesome billionaires. And social media is owned by a handful of gruesome billionaires, hardly any of whom live in this country. So do you think they have this country's best interests at heart? Nah, they don't. They don't. Johan says, you said earlier that the foghorn earns a lot. He doesn't. He just gets paid a lot, but doesn't do anything to actually earn it. That's very true. But it is wages, and that's why he had to declare it. Whereas Rishi Sunak and his mates in the Tory party, they earn way more. Well, they get more money than Nigel Farage does, like 120 times more in a given year. But, they get away with it because it's wealth. It's wealth. It's just, capital. It's capital gains. It's not a wage. Not a slave to the wage, they're not. David Faulkner, thank you very much for the 38 Hong Kong dollars all the way from Hong Kong Island. Thank you. Or Kowloon, I don't know. EU is good, but GU, Global Union, is better. The Euro is handy, but the Globo will be the best. Am I the only dreamer? Yeah, I mean, fine. I guess so, but you know that if that happened, it would be the dollar. It would be controlled by the Americans, because at the moment, all of our oil transactions around the world have to be in dollars for some reason. So if you're a Dutch company buying oil from a West African country, and say Nigeria, you don't use Nigerian money. You don't use you don't use euros. You use dollars for some reason. I don't know why. But yeah, thank you very much for that, David Faulkner, and also Captain Bart Robert. Thank you very much for the £10 super chat. There was a referendum on joining the common market. I voted join, my first vote. No one ever brought that up. The media back then was right behind it. Yes, Captain Bart Robert, thank you very much for the super chat. I'm going to correct you slightly though. It wasn't a referendum for joining the common market. It was a referendum for staying in the EEA. We joined the EEA officially in 1973, and then a couple of years later we had a referendum to say, is this a good thing? Do you want to stay in the EEA? The EEC, sorry, the EEC, the European Economic. It wasn't community back then, was it? Community, yeah, it was community. Yeah, we voted 2/3 to stay in the EEC, as it was back then. And you'll get liars, Farage and the like, saying, oh, but we were lied to. We were told it was just a trade thing. We told it was just a trade thing. We weren't told it was going to be any political things, or there was going to be a European Court of European Court of Justice. Yes, you were. Stop lying. You were absolutely told that at the time. It was in all the newspapers who were backing us staying in the EEC back then. I mean, like, you can find the articles saying this is just the first step towards an ever increasingly close union with our European brethren. And the EU was the absolute pinnacle achievement of Europe, of the continent of Europe, a continent that had been at war with itself for thousands of years. And finally, in 1992, it looked like, the Berlin Wall had come down, the Soviet Union collapsed, the EU was a force to be reckoned with, and it looked like, yeah, we've done it. We have actually done it. My God, we've found a way to work together towards a common goal. And the common goal is making loads of money. Let's make no bones about it. But you know what? I think some people do have too much money. But at the same time, having money is nice because it takes a lot of strain and stress out of your life. And also it allows you to travel freely around Europe, something that you can't do unless you're very rich these days. EEC in 73, yeah. Patrick McCarthy, Brexiters were obsessed with growing economies of other countries that were tiny. Yeah, I know. I had this conversation with some Brexiteers, young Brexiteers, who were talking about cocoa beans coming from Ghana or something, and I was like, and what? Okay, I think it's great that you want to help out the chocolate farmers of Ghana or Cote d'Ivoire, but like the reality is, it's not going to help our economy in any way, shape, or form, and it's not going to replace the 4 to 5% knock that our GDP has taken, our economy has taken as a result of Brexit, and it's going to take decades for our economy to get back to where it should have been. It's going to take even longer if we don't rejoin the EU sooner rather than later. I'm hoping it's going to be a matter on the 2029 election, but who knows? I'm going to be super old by then. Trapped on an island with millions of English people. This is something out of Dante. Indeed. Should we have a quick look at the papers? I know it's 10 o'clock now, but we can have a quick look. We can have a quick squiz at the papers. Here we go. We've got the Times here. The PM warned empowering unions will stifle growth. And then this thing about the super yacht that has crashed, sunk, off the coast of Sicily. The third day of rolling live updates from the BBC, and like, it's sad, and I feel really sorry for the people who may have passed away, including this is the daughter of one of the people who's missing, and she's missing as well. She looks a bit like Scarlett Johansson. And I think that it's awful. But at the same time, live rolling news coverage, I mean, okay. Why do we not get any of that for when a boat goes down in the channel and there's women and children on in the channel? That's a lot closer to home. But they're asylum seekers, so they don't count, I guess. This is a sad story about Sven-Göran Eriksson, the former England boss of the England football team, and he's got terminal cancer. He's 70. He's in his 76. He's 76 years old. And then Reeves plans tax rise amid alarm over black hole, talking about the black hole left by the Tories. And yes, taxes probably will rise, but not for us, I don't think. I don't think they're going to rise for the rich, which has been the plan for a while. Here's the story that I was talking about today. Brits without new €7 EU visa face being turned away in airports in 2025. So that's going to be a lot of fun for people to ruin their family holiday because, Brexiters just ruining people's lives left, right and centre. We have a super chat from Johnny Copperhead. Thank you very much, Johnny Copperhead. That is very kind of you. EU was going great guns until someone threatened UK billionaires with having to pay fair tax. Then the Brexit beast was roused. It was indeed. It's no surprise that the EU directive on tax avoidance was due to come in 2016. You wouldn't believe what else happened in 2016. You wouldn't believe me if I told you. So yes, and then we've got probe into hatches left open on doomed superyachts, which is a bit weird because even if the hatches were left open, it shouldn't have sank. It's all a bit odd. Harbour video shows yacht's final moments with Levy video there on the front of the Express, and then some weird story about putting Werther's originals in your food from the Star. I'm not even going to linger on that. And then hopes fade for the missing 6. Well, obviously, if they are trapped in the yacht, they have been stuck down there for 3 days now, and it's not particularly a survivable situation, 50 metres down. And then Reeves plans above inflation rise in social rents to boost house building, which doesn't sound good to me. But that's in the Financial Times, which usually, is one of those few newspapers that you can actually take seriously. So that's a roundup of what's going on in the newspapers. You can tell it's a silly season because each newspaper's got a different headline. I cannot understand how a massive, hugely expensive yacht does not have lifeboats, says Stephanie Wilson. Well, they're not supposed. It's not supposed to sink. Like, these boats are supposed to be unsinkable, but for somehow it sank. And it would have an inflatable dinghy on board. Definitely. I mean, just to get to the damn thing off from shore. But also, it would have an emergency raft on board as standard. It would have a GPS device and flares and things like that. It's just standard on a normal yacht. Never mind on a super yacht. There would have been a lifeboat. So there was only about 20 people on board. They can fit in a lifeboat. But yeah, it's really sad, but I don't know if this is a bit too soon to say this, but the other guy who was done by HP for selling their company, it was 2 guys, wasn't it? And one of them got killed in a car crash just a few days ago, and then the other one just died in a horrible yacht sinking. HP lost their case against these 2 guys who HP claimed that when they bought their company, they paid too much money for it. And the case rumbled on for years, and then eventually last June, it was just a couple of months ago, they were exonerated by an American court. And this was basically their celebration, I think, on the yacht. And for both of them to die, unconnected circumstances, one in a crash on a road and the other one out at sea, makes me worry about HP and their ability to, I don't know. Anyway, so remember to fill your printer with the correct ink. Even if you are printing black and white, please make sure there is enough cyan in your HP printer because they might come for you as well. Howard, thank you very much. Every nation has its numpties. It's just that England has more than its fair share, and unfortunately, too many places which matter. That is very true. Electra says, that's it, wasn't it? Reeves needs to look at introducing the UK version of the EU ATAD. Yep. The Genie Bottle says, welcome new baby, born in the UK. You can never leave the insane asylum unless you care and do not commit a crime, or your time on holiday will not be abroad. That's very true. And also, don't forget, if you get caught at a protest now with the anti-protest laws being in place, you could have yourself a jail sentence. Don't forget, when you apply for your, we're not seeing the forms yet for your ETIAS for the EU, but you can go and check what you have to submit for your ESTA for the United States, and it does ask you about not just your criminal record, like a custodial sentence, but also cautioned? Have you been cautioned by the police? And you've got, if you lie, they can lock you up. And honestly, I can't stress this enough, especially for people going to the US. People said to me, "Oh, you got a new passport now, Graham. Why do you still care about, about this Esther thing? You can just apply on a new passport and just say that everything's fine." I'm like, no, because if I go over there and there's some record of the fact that I've been knocked back at the border 8 years ago, I will be put in jail. There's no two ways about it. I'm put in jail and held in a cell without bail for as long as it takes to put me before a judge, which could take months and months and months. And then I'll probably get a small fine and sent back where I came from. But like, the 6 months of my liberty that I'll never get back. And this has happened to friends of mine who've had, speeding offences in America and left the country, and years later, literally 15 years later, gone back and been arrested at the airport because it's been flagged up on the system that they fled the country without paying the speeding fine. And they've been held for months in a jail cell. I mean, we're opening up this whole can of worms that I just don't because, and again, I'm going to be, sounding a little bit arrogant here, but having visited all of these countries in the rest of the world, I can tell you that we don't live a normal life in Europe. Our travel arrangements for as long as I can remember have been so easy to travel around my own continent. Not so easy to travel around Africa. Not so easy, the 54 countries of Africa. Not so easy to travel around Central Asia or the Middle East. But Europe was a dream to just be able to roam around to your heart's content and not have to ask anyone's permission, not to have X amount of money in your bank account. You don't have to say where you're going to be staying or give a name of a person who can be your contact if you commit a crime or whatever. You didn't have to do that. But the problem is, because most people in this country haven't really traveled much further than Europe, it means that we thought this was normal. And it's not normal. It's really not normal to be able to travel this freely. And we have taken that opportunity away from not just ourselves, but from our children and our grandchildren. And I think that is a crime. I think it's a crime against humanity to take away our freedom, to take away our birthright. And this is what people have done. And I know not everyone who's older voted for Brexit, but a lot of the older generation voted for Brexit. If the Brexit vote had just been people under the age of 50, we would not have left the EU. It's as simple as that. And yeah, I mean, people say, oh, you can't blame old people because not all old people voted for it. And I'm like, well, I can blame the English. If I was Scottish, I'd totally blame the English for Brexit because Scotland voted against it. And I, as an English person, wouldn't be able to go, oh, well, I didn't vote for it. I don't care. I don't care. That's not the response I'm looking for. Sometimes when people complain about something, they're not asking for you to justify what's happened. They don't want you to be fair. They don't want you to play devil's advocate, right? They don't want you to give solutions to the problem that they're complaining about sometimes, okay? All they want is a pat on the back and just be told, yeah, that is a bit shit, isn't it? Just a bit of a top tip there for people who just, might not realise. Anyway, right, I'm going to get going because it is 9 minutes past 10. Thank you very much for joining us this morning on Morning Brew. I don't think we're going to have a intersection today. If we do, I'll let you know. But I don't think we are because I'm in Liverpool at the moment, so it's a bit more awkward. Moving from one place to the next. I'm actually at my parents' house at the moment in Liverpool where all my stuff is set up. I'm not actually staying here. So I'm having to come from where we're staying over to I'm having to drive over to do the show and then I'm driving back again to be with my family. So yeah, I was going to say Phil will be back in the morning, bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, at 9:30 for another episode of Morning Brew. So please look out for that. Thank you so much for watching. Thanks to all the wonderful people in the chat there, our socialites. Thank you to everyone who dropped the super chat in. Really, really, really appreciate it. Give us a like on the way out. And until next time, I'll say thanks for watching. Hello, good evening, welcome, and goodbye.